Hey guys, my name is Sid. Welcome to another tech review. Today we're going to be checking... Man, this thing has a lot of fingerprints on it. And today we're going to be checking out this phone, which is the Xiaomi Redmi Note 9S. Now last year I did a review of the Note 8 Pro, which is the predecessor of this phone. And I thought it was one of the best budget phones of last year. It packed a lot for $200. And this year they're giving you something similar. It's again $200, but they've packed a lot more into it. They've changed the design up. They're giving you a lot more features. So today I thought I'd share with you what exactly is in the Note 9S. Some of the things are amazing and some not so great. So let's get into it. The first thing you'll notice when you unbox the Note 9S is that it is a gigantic phone. So here is my iPhone 11 Pro Max, which I consider to be a pretty big phone. And this over here is the Redmi Note 9. As you can tell, it's substantially taller but a slight bit thinner, so it doesn't feel that big in your hand even though it is massive, because this is a 6.67 inch screen with a hole punch camera, and that's a great thing for content consumption. I'm watching some YouTube videos on this and it looks absolutely amazing. And it almost feels like a mini tablet in my hand. Even though I'm used to using the iPhone 11 Max, still this feels substantially bigger because there's no notch and the screen is a bit taller. So it definitely feels like a great viewing experience for consuming media. If you just want the biggest display you can get for $200, I think this is pretty much it right now. Now the specs on this are pretty mediocre if you look at it on paper. It's got a Snapdragon 720G processor inside it, which is kind of the low end of Snapdragon. It's also got only 4 gigs of RAM, but in all honesty, in day-to-day usage, you don't notice it that much. The only time I did was when I'm trying to switch between apps. Sometimes those apps will go out of memory. Say if I was playing something like PUBG, and then I switch to my web browser and then open another app, then open Facebook, and now I'm going back to PUBG, it's going to reload the app. So I think that's the only disadvantage of having less RAM. But in day-to-day performance, you don't really feel it. It's just at times like that when you really want to multitask or open up multiple apps at the same time. That's when it kind of gets left behind. In terms of design, it's quite an interesting phone. I mean, this is one of the most reflective and fingerprint magnet phones that I've ever held. I literally took it out of the box like before filming this, while after wiping it, and look how many fingerprints it has already. Like, I don't think this is a very good material to put on a phone that's going to be held so much, because it's going to look like a complete mess after about 10 minutes of use. The other thing that's interesting is the way that they've set up these cameras. Before we get into the specs of the camera, let's just talk about the way it looks. It reminds me of a robot. Like, have you guys seen Futurama, like Bender in Futurama? Kind of reminds me of that. I don't know why they decided to do it this way, and the way that they put the flash on there, it kind of looks like a robot with its mouth open. Another weird thing about the phone, if you look at the phone, it looks like there's just 2 buttons on here, the power button, which is also the fingerprint sensor, but then also another button which is actually the volume rocker. Now they've decided to have a single button for it. It does have an up and down click, but sometimes when I'm trying to increase or decrease the volume, it doesn't do the right thing. Like, I just wish they separated it out into 2 buttons. That would have been much nicer for the feel of it. The fingerprint sensor is nice, and there's a recess on the side of the phone so you can actually easily feel for it and get to it if you want. And it works really well, and it's super fast. I mean, they've pretty much perfected fingerprint sensor technology now, so I mean, it's really good. The front of the phone actually looks nice. It's got a bit of a thick bezel at the bottom especially, but because it has that hole punch camera, it looks really nice, and it feels like most of the phone is being taken up by the screen. And if you go on websites that are completely white, sometimes you will see like a dark shadow around the hole punch camera, as well as some of the corners of the display. I think that's just a limitation of LCD technology. In terms of real world performance, that 720G processor is not really holding it back. I was running PUBG at 60 frames a second in high settings and there was no issues at all. Even though it is a lower processor, you don't really feel it in day-to-day use. I mean, unless you're trying to render a video or something on this, you're not really going to be able to feel that. Now the speakers on this are all right. It doesn't have stereo speakers, it's only got it on one side. It gets pretty loud, but it doesn't have much bass. I find it really annoying, especially when I'm holding the phone like this. If the speaker gets covered over here, there's no sound at all. So I wish they had included a stereo speaker into this. For this price range, the speaker is pretty good. Now, let's talk about the battery life on this thing. This thing has a massive battery, 5020 milliamp hours, and it easily lasts for 2 days. I mean, this phone just goes on and on in terms of battery life, and no complaints there at all. In fact, I've been using it lightly for the last 48 hours and it's still at about 20%. This has not been my primary phone. My SIM card's not inside it. I've been using it, playing games on it, and checking out web surfing, seeing the performance of it, and it's still at 20% after 2 days, so that's pretty amazing. The screen's also a pretty high resolution screen. It does 1080p by 2400 pixels, which is a pixel density of 395 pixels per inch, which is right up there. It's a bit higher than 1080p, and most of those extra pixels are going towards the vertical height of the phone. So on the front of the device, you also get a 16 megapixel hole punch cutout camera, and it's capable of doing HDR photography as well. On the back, you get a 48 megapixel 1.8 aperture lens. You get an 8 megapixel ultra wide doing f2.2, which is really good actually for an ultra wide, and you get a 5 megapixel macro lens. Now, I really enjoy using macro lenses, and the way this phone is doing photography for zoom is by using the 48 megapixel shot and then just zooming into it digitally, which is fine because you have a lot of pixels to work with, and zooming in is not going to destroy the quality of those photographs. And I really like having a macro lens because some of the photographs you can get and the cool depth effects and stuff that are there on macro photography, I just enjoy having that, so I don't miss having a zoom lens on this camera. So this is a selfie video test for the Note 9S, and as you can see, it's doing a pretty good job. I'm standing right in front of a window, so the lighting's good, but I'm going to shake it around a little bit, and it does, the image stabilization is not too bad. Now I'm going to go outside where it's a little bit brighter, and with the sun behind me. Okay, so the HDR is not working that great. As you can see, the whole background's kind of blown out, but yeah, it's not bad. Skin tones look pretty good, and the focus is good. So yeah, that's the video test. I mean, it's really spectacular what cameras on these ultra budget smartphones can do these days. These are some of the photographs and video that I took. Image stabilization is electronic but works pretty well. I didn't try shooting 4K, but these cameras are capable of shooting 4K video as well. Now, when you take a 48 megapixel camera, when you do save it, it takes a couple of seconds to save it. I guess it's just the size of the images that takes a while, but it does feel a little bit slow when you're trying to take a bunch of pictures in 48 megapixel. I want to end this video by saying how impressed I am by what $200 phones can do these days. It really gives a lot of people access to great cameras at a reasonable price. I think the best thing about it is probably the screen. I wish it was 90 Hertz though. If it was 90 Hertz, it would have made it just perfect and more competitive with the competition out there. But overall, as is, I think it's a great media consumption device. It's a great device for gaming as well. It will keep up with Call of Duty, PUBG, all those kind of games. It's got enough performance for that kind of thing. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go buy the phone. And if you like this video, hit that like button, leave me a comment, subscribe to watch more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. As I've been trying to take this thumbnail for ages, and every time I wipe it off, I still get these fingerprints again. This shit is so annoying, man. There we go.